We're going to that. I'm going to call the meeting to order. I'm going to ask if you can stand if you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chair?
Yes.
We had an item for executive session that I'd love to take out of order briefly.
Go right ahead.
I'd like to move that we enter into executive session for Procedure 3 to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if it open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigation position of the public body, and the chair so declares.
I so declare, and just so everyone understands, when we originally put this agenda together, we weren't sure what was going to go on. I think when we come back, it'll be a more, we'll have a bigger discussion with the crowd, but I need a second. This requires a roll call vote. Meg? Greg?
Aye.
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 And the chair votes aye. We should be back very shortly. I'll wait for Kathy. Where'd Kathy go?
She's chit-chatting. She's catching up with folks.
She's a chatty Kathy.
Chatty Cathy.
Kathy, you all set? I'll bring the meeting back to order. Thanks for your patience, everybody. Next up on our agenda is public comment. Does anyone wish to speak on anything not on tonight's agenda? Seeing no one, I'll move on. Reports from student rep. I know Owen's busy for the summer, but we'll go to reports from school committee members. Mr. Ness.
Nothing at this time.
Mr. Stevens.
Yes, I mentioned that I had a good time at the Summer Institute with the MASC. I know it's on the agenda, so we'll talk about that later.
We will,
It
sir.
was a good time.
Thank you. Mr. Giaminoni.
I just want to make mention that although it'll be later on, but I want people to hear it now, the next meeting of the high school building committee is September 6th, 2017. You can go to their website, mhsbuildingproject.com, and if you click on design, you can look at schematic elevations and floor plans, as well as the landscape presentation that was given to the committee last meeting, the full committee last meeting, and some great images there. You can take a look at what is planned for moving forward if the people vote for it. So that's mhsbuildingproject.com. I just want to make mention of that, and thanks for everyone who came out to Crazy Days and worked the booth, etc. It was great. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Franco.
Nothing at this time.
I just wanted to, the only thing I wanted to add was I just wanted to say thank you to a gentleman from town named Mr. Richard Oakley. He put together a No Place for Hate event at Town Hall last night that was really well attended by over 100 people. It was in response to Charlottesville, and it was fantastic, and I do want to thank him for that. Next up on our agenda is Mr. Catino. Mr. Catino, I hope you're having a nice summer.
Good evening. Actually, I've been having a great summer.
Good.
Did a lot of traveling, so my wife and I decided, with my condition, we're going to do as much of that as we can whenever we can get to do that. And I highly recommend that if anybody would like a good vacation, going out to San Francisco, Yosemite, and Napa Valley, great time. So that was our big trip this summer. Looking forward to getting back to school. Myself and some of our executive board members, we're putting together our welcome back packets today up at the high school. Everything's looking pretty good. So other than that, I'm all set.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Catino? Mr. Catino, only a couple of short weeks until school begins.
This is true.
Thank you very much. If no one objects, I'm going to take a piece out of order right now, and that is the special education transportation request. I just want to explain to everybody sort of what's happened since the last time you were all here. The day of the meeting, so what happened was we came to an agreement with the minibus drivers last May. The minibus drivers rejected our contract, I believe, in early June of this year. We had not met prior to that, this summer, because we hadn't received another proposal. The day of our last meeting, our lawyer informed us that their union reps had reached out to her and asked to schedule a date. And we did. We scheduled that date for Monday, which would be the 21st? 21st. This past Thursday, the union representation contacted the superintendent and told the superintendent they're interested in ending negotiations and solving the problem, and they would be sending over a proposal to us. We were told that the proposal would be sent to us on Friday. It would be sent to our attorney. On Friday, our attorney got the proposal and sent it to Brian and myself briefly. She told us at some point this week that the minibus drivers were going to vote on the contract themselves. We found out this morning that the minibus drivers ratified their portion of the contract, and they let us know that. So when we met tonight, what we did was Brian and I had a conversation just briefly, Mr. Lynch and I, that we wanted to let the committee know. We put on the agenda the executive session that was primarily for the meeting on Monday. Given the proposal they had sent over, myself and Mr. Giannone were going to recommend that proposal to the full committee tonight, so we wanted to let them know. We wanted to let them know where it stood. And so even though that's not on the agenda for right now, I'm allowed to put things on the agenda that I didn't conceivably know would happen. And since they voted last night and told us this morning, I think everyone can understand that I conceivably didn't know it was going to happen. So I wanted to bring that up. I also wanted we're going to take a vote on the contract itself. I'm going to ask the committee for that vote. And I'll still open time if people want to dialogue. I didn't want people to think we shut them out or anything like that. I wanted to explain what happened, so you all knew. So without any further ado, the chair will entertain a motion to accept and ratify the contract with the minibus drivers.
Second.
Yeah.
I would move that we ratify and authorize you to sign the memorandum of agreement between the school committee and the Middleborough Minibus Drivers Unit Teamsters Local 653.
Do I hear a second? Discussion.
Mr. Chair,
Please, Mr. Giannone.
as I usually do with any contract, I like to briefly go over some of the pieces that have changed in the contract. First of all, this contract is retroactive all the way to July 1st of 2016. It's over a year that they've been out of contract. They went through a reorganization piece too, as part of that year. We've included insurance verbiage that has been included in all our other contracts. Some clerical stuff of how extra work is given out, which we had lots of discussions. I think we can say we had lots of discussions about that, on how when extra work outside of the regular scheduled stuff gets done, how that would be done. And I think we've got some pretty good ideas on how that's going to work, and we're all happy with that. There's a 2% increase each year for 3 years. So it's 2% as of July 1st of last year, and then 2% this July 1st of 2017, and then 2018 as well. There is a piece that adds a safety bonus for the drivers, so long as they drive safe and et cetera. They can receive a bonus twice a year of, I think it's $250. The longevity piece that was changed, it's in line with all of our other contracts now. We try to line them all up so that everyone fairly gets longevity. Longevity is anyone who stays a long period of time. You want to reward employees that have made the commitment to our district. And that's usually, you see that in a lot of contracts. And it goes anywhere from $600 up to, I think it's $1,000 for those people who have served 25 years or more continuous in our employment. There is a piece now for a lead driver, a driver that really is going to take on a little bit of extra work where they're going to sometimes fill in for the person who does our scheduling in our office, but also the position will really help oversee what's going on second to the person in our office, which is great. And one other little piece, I think we've offered GPSs now because no one can use phones in cars, so you can't just say, oh, just use your smartphone, because you can't. You can't use a smartphone in a van. So GPSs have been made available, and I know we're working on making sure 12 volts available to everybody as well if there's any issues. So that was added into the contract as well. So that's pretty much the nuts and bolts of the changes. And if there's any specific questions, I'd welcome.
The other thing I should point out to everybody too is this is our last of 6 contracts that Brian and I will negotiate. I think it probably took the longest because we had a late start. The minibus drivers decertified their first union, had signed up with the Teamsters, and then there was a problem with that sign up that National Board of Labor Relations didn't recognize it immediately and made us wait and made them wait to actually go with the Teamsters. And so by the time we first met, it was almost at the end of that first year, about the summer. It was about the summer of last year, and that really wasn't the fault of the drivers or us. It was just how the NLRB certified their union and what we needed to do. So it took a little while to do. So that's part of the reason it took the longest. Does any member of the board have questions? Any member of the audience have questions? Seeing none. Motion on the table is to ratify the contract and allow me to sign it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much, ladies.
Thank you.
As I said last time, and I know everyone wants to leave, and that's fine, but I did want to make sure that it was still open to you if you wanted to have any discussions. I know parents wanted to have this. Sometimes the process drags out a while, but it's just that piece. So I do want to open that up if anyone wants to, and you are more than welcome to go home and enjoy the rest of your night if you so choose. No problem. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
So if no one else objects, I'm going to move on to the superintendent's report. Thank you, everybody. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, someone else.
Double check.
No problem.
Just put them in a maybe.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
If we're still on special ed transportation requests, does anyone else want to talk? Okay.
Thank you.
Public? You offered a public comment, right?
Right.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Lynch, I'll turn it over to superintendent's report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Welcome to the meeting, and we have a number of items to discuss under my report, and I have a number of people to present to you this evening. The first person to come down is Joanne Babin. Joanne Babin runs our SHARP program. She does an excellent job each year, drawing in young people from the elementary level, and this year expanded to the middle school level, and offered a STEAM program for the middle school level. And she has with her a visual aid, and so she's coming down to us now. Awesome. Looks great. Maybe we can get a camera shot of that, I'm not sure. Yeah. So if you don't know Joanne Babin is a very, very active parent, has been involved in PTAs at all levels, and has organized the SHARP program. Joanne, going on how many years now?
This is my 4th year. SHARP has been going on for 25 years.
Yes. So I'll have to say that my own daughter has participated the last couple of years, and my older daughter's participated way back when, but each of them have enjoyed this a great deal and wish it were longer than 2 weeks. But so Joanne, welcome, and I'm sure you have a few words to say to the committee, and I'm sure the committee might want to ask you a question or two, or comment a question or two.
So this is the 25th year of SHARP. I've done it for the last 4 years. This year we had 105 students, 93 were SHARP, and the new part of it was STEAM, which was 12 middle schoolers, grades 6 through 8. Sedelia Doherty Pina, she ran it, but she's on vacation, so she was hoping to maybe come in September and talk about what she did, because there was a lot going on there. The shop part, they did arts and crafts, karate, dance, sewing, gym games, messy science, the ocean. And we have 3 friends here who they wanted to kind of show you what they did and what they,
Sure.
so we have Caitlin, she is in 6th grade. You want to come up here? Yeah. And how long you been doing shop?
4 years.
This is her 4th year doing shop. She's going off to the middle school, so next year she can participate in the STEAM part of it.
Awesome.
And we have Gabby. What did you do for classes?
I did messy science and sewing.
So messy science is like one of our most popular. It fills up the day that the registration goes out. Like, and I have to turn away sad children. So next year maybe I should do 2. And Gabby made a pillow, but they must have went home with, I don't know, 15 things that they sewed in the 8 days that they were. She made this little bag.
Very nice.
I made shorts.
You made some shorts?
All that,
And I also made a pin cushion.
little print
Wow.
cushion. Yeah. We
Awesome.
got a lot done in just 8 days of that. And then Savannah did the STEAM part of it. So Savannah, what was your favorite part of it?
My favorite part was going geocaching. We walked around town using coordinates to find small, medium, and large boxes with stuff in it. And the rule for geocaching is if you take something, you also have to put something, and you have to put it in the exact place you found it.
So at the end, did you make little containers or something? Is that
Yeah,
what you-
we made our own geocache with stuff in it that represented STEAM, and then we hid it somewhere around the school ground.
And how did you access the geocaching? Using your phone? Is
Yeah,
that-
we had to use our phones,
Yep.
and there's an app, there's 2 apps. There's one where it just shows where the smaller ones are, and then if you upgrade it, it shows you where the more bigger ones and important ones are.
So they walked all around town and went to the Heron Run. You left something out there for them to do? So how do they get that? They go online, is that?
They have to go on the geocaching app and follow the coordinates, but then if they can't find it, there's a clue to help you find it.
And Meg Quirk helped me get 3 kids sponsored through MEC, HBB, and MKG sponsored a student so that they could come to shop, and I did 1 student, so there was 4 on scholarship this year.
Great.
And that's it. It was 8 days of fun.
Joanne, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Do any members of the committee have any questions or comments for Ms. Babin?
It was fun.
That you run it for the summer and you use part of your summer to take this, and we really appreciate it.
I make my kids work, too.
Mr. Chair, that stretch into STEAM, I love.
Yeah.
I love that, because if we don't do it, that's where we're all headed in our mindset. So I think it's great to see young students really embracing it,
Yeah.
because then they can embrace it further on in their education,
Right.
here in Middleborough or even beyond in college.
Yeah.
So it's great. I'm glad they added that piece.
What else did you do in the scene? They
We made
filtered water.
stick
Water.
figures.
Cool.
They filtered water. Did anybody get clean water? It was kind of gross.
I did. We filtered water with different materials we've decided to use, and we tested the pH of the water, and mine filtered out totally clear and good to drink.
Wow. Right up my alley.
High school has a proposed steam wing, so
And all these kids were.
looking forward to that.
I just wanted to personally thank you, and on behalf of the committee and the entire town of Middleborough, because it's quite an undertaking to put together and run and manage a summer program, and truly have it be engaging, and every year more and more kids want to join. And the fact that you engaged 105 of our students this summer, we know there's lots of data about summer slip, and what happens when kids have nothing to do during the summer. It's quite remarkable, and we can't thank you enough. And thank you, kids, for coming on a summer night, a beautiful summer night, to come share your experiences. It's clear you had a lot of fun, and we thank you for taking time to come up here. It's not easy to sit behind that desk over there and present to a group of grumpy-looking strangers. So thank you very, very much.
They were glad
Well
the
done.
crowd
You
left.
represented yourself well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, do you want to take a picture with the kids?
Yeah.
You guys might take a picture.
With them too.
Go ahead, you guys go. I have enough pictures. Usually doing this. They make. But it's a lost art.
And, Mr. Chair, to continue with our superintendent's report for the evening, we have a technology update. Ellen Driscoll is our Chief Technology Officer, and she is here tonight to present to you an update, sort of the past year and for the coming year, and everything that's been going on in the tech department after our first year of one-on-one in grades 6 through 12 and heading into our year 2. And welcome, Ellen. Thank you. Are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go. Thank you for
Okay.
having me. So, we've had a wonderful year this year, and we're in much better shape than we were last year, this time trying to get ready for the one-to-one. And let me explain. First, I want to recognize my technology staff. Louise Bertelli, she's the Educational Technology Support Facilitator. Mo Broder, he's one of our technicians, along with Jason Casimiro. Cindy DeStefano is our Assistant Support Specialist / Webmaster. Katie Goodine is the Student Information Specialist, and Michael Mills is a Technology Technician, and Mark Mobley. They have worked very hard. They work hard all year, but there's no rest for us in the summer. It's even, there's more work for us in the summer now, getting ready for one-to-one. And so they've worked hard to accommodate, to make sure that everybody is definitely going to have their device for the first day of school. We're actually going to, I believe, it's not confirmed, but we're going to roll out the freshman device, I think, next week on the 23rd. Paul's going to confirm that with me. So we're in great shape for our one-to-one initiative. And so in terms of our distribution process, we purchased 240 travel mates for the freshmen and the high school students, 260 Chromebooks, and we got a new Chromebook model for the 6th grade. It's a tougher mill spec, which mill is for military spec, so hopefully we'll have less breakage with this new model. And we've assigned these to the students rather than by the cart, so we've changed how we're actually rolling it out, so I think it'll be easier. We've learned from last year, and that's, I mean, what one would expect to do with a brand-new program is we've taken what we've done and we tried to refine it and do better. So, the other thing I'm really happy, I have to thank Scott Beach and Jim Hutchinson for this. If you look at the picture on the left, the Tech Department 2017, when they were doing, those are all the freshman devices. They could work on, as you can see, a large number at one time, versus last year when they were in the boiler room, which was obviously very uncomfortable once the heat came on in the fall. It was very noisy and hot. So we're ecstatic with our new bench for working on, so they can do their imaging and their onboarding and assigning them to the kids and labeling. We're a far more efficient department with this new change. And what they've done is they onboarded all the devices to get a new internet certificate for wireless access. We upgraded all of the devices, all devices from not just the new ones, but the ones that already existed had to be touched. So we needed a new internet certificate. They had to upgrade the Windows 10. They had to put on a Lightspeed agent and a mobile agent, Mass 360. What we're hoping, what they've done this year, that they will be able to do this automatically in the future and not have to touch the older ones, just the new ones that come in. So that's our goal. So, as you can see, 253 Chromebooks went for the sixth graders, and we're getting more in, understanding that we have 20 new kids coming in, and there's 10 have left, approximately. Those numbers aren't exact. So we still have changes going on. And we have 252 Chromebooks for the 7th grade and 267 Chromebooks for the 8th grade. And the 6th and 7th graders will get the newer devices. The older ones will be the 8th grade, with the intent that next year when we buy 6th grade, then they'll all have a newer model going through. And grade 9, we have 193 Windows laptops. Grade 10, 169. Grade 11, we have 167. And grade 12, 173 in the Futures program. I neglected to say on the middle school, the older devices, what we're going to do, and the same thing with the high school ones, is we're going to, the ones that are still useful, we will be moving down into the elementary level, just so you know what we're doing with that. The network infrastructure. Our underlying goal is, and I've mentioned this before, is to protect the security and privacy of our students, the staff, and the integrity of our systems. So for projects this year, we're installing a new firewall solution to replace the existing end-of-life firewall. That's supposed to be done next week. We already have the 10 gigabytes to all the buildings, and once we put the firewall in place, in fact, the rack showed up today, which was interesting because it's bigger than the doors to get in, and so it was quite a challenge for them to get the rack in, but it's in now. Thanks to Mark Cavell and his helpers, they did a great job bringing it into our office. So we're doing a 10, I already said we did the 10 gig upgrade. We have smart UPSs that I applied for E-rate for. Those would be backups for our voice over IP. I have not been audited yet to get the money from E-rate for that. But once we do, I do have the money still in capital so that we can get these backups to keep the phone systems and things going just for a short period of time, but at least to keep it up for a while until we can assess the situation and what we can do. We are installing a new PRI for voice over IP, which is basically a circuit. That circuit is going to save us about $200 a month. We're excited about that. We're just waiting for Comcast now to give us a date so we can move over. And that, hopefully that won't be too far off, because we want to get that savings. Technology projects. We'd like to redesign the district website using Blackboard Web Community Manager. Right now, Blackboard, Schoolwise was bought by Blackboard, and it's now called the Blackboard Web Community Manager. We have already looked at the new product. It's a lot easier to use, more intuitive. So we're excited about it. What we'll be doing is changing the template to fit our new logos and going more with the black and orange type theme. So we had meetings for the last 2 days on this, and we're very excited about this potential change in our website that we're going to go on the fast track and try to get it done as soon as possible. The other piece, one of the reasons we want to do this, more than just to make it look and feel different, we want to make it handicap accessible, which is important because communities, it's a civil rights violation if it's not handicap accessible, and there are school districts that are getting cited on this. So I know Mr. Lynch talked about a district in the North Shore, and I know there's one in the south, down the Cape, that just got cited. So they are coming out and looking at websites and then sending you letters saying you're not in compliance. The next, and so we want to, and it's going to be more responsive, so that when you have your phone and you're looking at our website, it would be easier to navigate than if you didn't have it. We're also going to upgrade our app for your mobile app. That's going to be upgraded as well. And we've actually been working on that. We had a meeting about that today with the company. And none of that costs any extra money, this upgrade for the mobile app. And we did the Black Mass notification system. We did upgrade that, so that it would include email and social media tools, so that when we send out a notification, so this was in response, I know, with Mr. Brannigan, he didn't want to always use the phone, because then people say, oh yeah, it's just the school again, and they don't really pay attention. So you want to save that for when it's really an important message that you want to send out. And if it's just a regular message saying something's happening, you can send it via email or social media. So that's the intent behind that. So we're working on that, hopefully have that ready for the beginning of school. That's our intent. We're also going to set up the district for single sign-on. I once talked to a parent who had twins at the middle school who was saying that between her two kids and all the sign-ons and all the different products we have, she had to keep all these logs so she can log in and figure out which product, where she's going. So with the single sign-in, the intent was try to have it so that the kids log in and there's one place, one-stop shopping, and they can get to all the different products that we purchase and sign in. The last thing, part of that, the filter that we have for the students is that it's called Orchestrator, and what that will do for teachers, and I think they're going to like this, is allow teachers to take control of the students' machines. So when they have the 25 kids in front of them, they can actually say, okay, all eyes on me, and they take control of the device so that they can then demonstrate whatever they want to demonstrate and then give the device back to them. It does more than that, but that's I think one of the things that teachers would like is to be able to have that ability to say, you need to pay attention to me right now, not be off, doing whatever it is they might be doing. Okay, MCAS 2.0. We did the online testing this year in the grades 3 through 8, and this picture is not a picture of when the kids were actually doing the real test. This is a practice test. So we had all the teachers were trained on how to use the administration management portal. The students took the test on mobile devices. At the middle school, they used Chromebooks. At the complex, they used the Windows tablets. It seemed to go very well. I never heard of any complaints, so it went smoothly. The kids are very adaptable. This is what their world anyway, so they were quite comfortable doing it this way. Louise Bertelli, not just the complex, but at the high school, she works throughout the district doing professional development with teachers, but she took on a number of projects this year that I was very excited. I had to participate in some of them because it was just, they're fun, and it's exciting to watch the kids who are so enthused and enjoying what they're doing. So she did in grade 1 a live safari in South Africa. She did customs and cultures in countries around the world with grade 2. She did mystery states with grade 4. She did learning the Google Suite at the high school, and the students used a variety of technology. They used the video conferencing platforms such as Skype or Google Hangouts, the interactive projectors that we have throughout the district, the Bright Links, and the document camera, the Elmo, to embark on these distant learning activities. So in the live safari, it was in South Africa, and there's those pictures of the kids that are engaged in these, and they saw a variety of different animals. I'm actually going to show you some of the video in a second, but they had guides, and Mrs. Bertelli would communicate with the guides, and then the students actually, they did preparation for this. They would do research, they would develop questions, and the kids would ask the questions while this is going on. And you could actually see they welcomed other school districts could do this. So there was 2 or 3 or 4 different schools on at the same time, and the students, they'd say, you know, whether it's MKG or whatever, they'd say whatever the school was would show up on the screen, and it'd have the question that the child was asking up on the screen. So, and they would talk to them about, you know, how much an elephant weighed or that kind of stuff. It was very interesting. And let me see.
Mr. Chair, can I just ask a question
Sure.
about this particular piece? When you have on here listed a grade 1 did live safari in Africa,
Right.
was that every grade 1 classroom across the Birkeland and Mary Kay Good, or is it?
I think that was just Mary Kay Good, but there's only one, I think she said there was only one grade 1 classroom that didn't participate. It was up to the teacher to decide to participate, okay?
Thank you.
So, but the other, on the Mystery States, all of grade 4 in both buildings did that. Okay. So, just to give you a brief overview. Oh, no. This was working when I came in this evening.
Minimize it, maybe.
Yeah.
I think it was still open under the.
Oh, I did, I thought I closed it out though, no?
Let's see.
Minimize.
Is it one of these? This guy.
Is it that guy? All right, we can just go back to it, it's fine. Thank you. So, I'm just gonna,
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
A very, very special welcome to Henry B. Birkeland Elementary School, Trantwood and Kempsville Meadows Elementary School,
So
7 to
HB
9 years old, watching us here. I guess you must be in grade 3 or grade 2 or perhaps both. My name is James Hendry, and it's lovely to have you with us here on Safari. We're going to be trying to find as many things as we can around here, and you can ask us any questions you like through your teachers. You just ask them a question, they will send a question through to us, and we'll do our best to answer that question. At the moment, we have got so many animals here, I don't even know where to look. We're just going to quickly look at them all, and then I'm going to move to look at the elephants. You've seen the elephants coming down to drink. Over there, we've got some nyala. That's those little antelope that you can see there, and they're with some impala, and we're going to swing all the way around to the right-hand side now and show you just behind, hiding behind a little tree over there, is a giraffe. Can you believe that? And as I sneak slowly, look at him, he's hiding from you all, he's quite shy. And as I sneak slowly forward, I'm going to show you some zebra, and then we're going to go
like
quickly
that
down to look at the elephants. There,
Kids
look at
can
the
pick
zebra,
that.
those big stripy bottoms you can see walking away from us. Wonderful. Now let's move down and have a look at these magnificent elephants. Just going to try and get us into the best possible position. I think this will be a good one here. There we go. Look how many there are. They're all having a drink today.
it actually goes for an hour, so I won't do that to you. But it is, the children were enchanted with it. When they went out on this happened, each time she registered for these, there was no guarantee what you get. You know, you never, did not necessarily see a zebra or an elephant. Sometimes they'd be showing you an insect, and it was incredible, the stuff that they learned. And when I first got involved with education and technology, we dreamed about this, and it's finally arrived, that this is a real virtual field trip. The kids feel like they're asking questions, it's back and forth, it's give and take, and it was wonderful to watch. So I'm very excited about this. So then she did Global Connection. Sure, no problem.
This was the program run through Louise, it sounds like. I'm wondering, and I guess my question is, It sounds like this maybe was the first year that they kind of explored this type of opportunity for our students.
This is our first year, yes.
Yeah, which is great. So I can see you kind of tested and learned in different classrooms. It sounds like it was a success.
Yeah.
So,
And I was wrong, it was HBB too. 'Cause
Yeah,
that
it looks like it was
yeah,
HBB. It was
yeah.
Mrs. Louise
I just knew there was only
Sure.
one classroom that didn't participate.
Right,
Yeah.
so kind of my thought is, if it was really successful in these classrooms, what I'd love to see is it more broadly applied across an entire grade level.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Every first grade class, if it was successful, maybe moving into this year, gets a similar experience, because it looks quite amazing, and as we seek
It
to
is.
kind of produce 21st century learners and
Right.
engaged in technology embedded
Yeah.
in the curriculum, looks like a great experience, so I'm hopeful that
Yeah.
maybe she has some plans to kind of integrate it into the curriculum, or.
Right.
maybe
I spent some time over at MEC this year, and when the kids came over, the kindergarten students came over to tour the school, we happened to have one of these up there. And the kindergarten kids were coming in, and they recognized, and they're looking and say, oh, I mean, they were just in awe. And so the excitement, that they probably can't wait to get here, because look at what they do here, at the complex, So it was exciting.
So is that kind of the thought, you think, that there'll be some kind of, and I guess maybe that's the district
Yeah.
principal's kind of discussion with them as far as.
Certainly be the hope that
that's-
Louise would show them how to do these things so
And
that
they
it
could do
becomes
it
a
on their
regular
own.
part of,
Yeah.
of what they do in each classroom.
Yeah.
So,
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is sort of the safari itself, the one you just showed us, is
Right.
it the culmination of work, or is there multiple times the safari is shown to the kids?
They only go for that 1 hour type of tour,
Okay.
but then she has culminating, I brought, I don't know if she has it in there, Safari Live, yeah. She has some of the work, which I'll leave with you, so you can just share, pass around. There's follow-up activities, and then they write a thank you note to the guide, and they have follow-up activities about what they actually learned. So they would write that, I learned that an elephant weighs so many tons, or whatever it is, they would write that up. So there was a follow-up activity, it wasn't just doing this. There was a research in advance about the area, then they did the field trip, I'm gonna call it, and then they did activities and did writing activities to demonstrate what they learned. So, like I said, I was extremely excited about it. And, okay. On this one, she did global connections with grade 2 to learn about the culture and customs of the country. Try to see if you can see in the bottom left, you can't tell very well with the lighting, but Mr. Cardoza, our ELL teacher, director, he's in the room with these kids. There were some students that were originally from Brazil that are our students, and those students were so excited to be connecting with a classroom from Brazil. He actually spoke to the kids from Brazil in their native language, and so it's the same concept as what the Safari, except they're communicating with classrooms, but they have to research the country, find out about the country, ask questions, they have conversation back and forth, and then Mrs. Bertelli would actually take, on the bottom right, that's Google Earth, and she'll go to that country where that school was and show them through Google Earth what it looks like in that area. So they're getting a really good experience in terms of what that country is like. And she had to go out and find the connections with those, find classrooms in those countries in order to do that. Again, the excitement I see when I go in and I see this going on is just fabulous. Now, Mystery State, this again is fun. Fun, interactive way for them to learn about states in our country. And all fourth grade students participated in this in both schools. Teachers and students enjoyed the lessons. Students learned about landforms, waterways, vocabulary like landlocked. Students developed the questions and did the research to determine the name of the mystery state. So these are just pictures of 2 of the classrooms, but again, if all goes well.
Are you ready for me
This is a child
to
asking a
ask a
question.
Fire away. Go ahead. That means go. Is your state landlocked?
Thank you. You want to go over our safety side and review?
Thank you.
can see the classroom in the back on the projector.
Okay.
That's the Elmer.
Wonders, are we landlocked? Yes, we're giving you a thumbs up, we are landlocked.
Thank you.
So in this one, the students, oops, backwards.
So our question is, may we guess where you are located? That's our question. Okay, let's
Are you ready for me to ask the question? Is your state Texas?
Okay, so now.
Like I said, the enthusiasm is the best part. At the high school, she worked with Mrs. Rufo's class to learn how to use the G Suites, Google Mail, the Docs, and Drive. She also worked with other teachers up there to do the Google Read and Write program. So, what she developed at MKG, and they have a program similar at HBB that was already in place, is a student-to-student support with grade 5 helps the grade 1 and sometimes grade 2 students how to use technology. So the students were matched up with, the grade 5 classrooms were matched up with grade 1 classrooms, and the students would go into the classroom to be computer support for them, not into the lab, I'm talking about into the classroom with mobile devices. And it was done during the response to intervention time. And for instance, if they were using RazKid online, the kids would then listen to the story and then answer the questions. Well, the grade 5 students would help the younger students to navigate to get to whatever it is they need to do. And what I saw is that grade 5 students gained self-confidence as being a leader, and then the younger students became more independent because they learned how to do what they need to do. So I think this is a great model that's been developed, and just wanted to highlight it. And I'm excited to say that we're going to host a Blended Learning Summit October 3rd here at Nichols Middle School. The keynote is Heather Staker, blended using disruptive innovation to improve schools. And it's a partnership with MassQ and Eduscape, who had done our professional development last summer. And this is open to other districts to participate, and we get 10 free seats for hosting. So we're excited about this, and you can see that they'll have workshops on various topics about blended learning, and this will help our teachers to incorporate more blended learning. The reason I think blended learning is important is it's a combination of online learning and face-to-face, and it helps teachers, and some teachers are already doing this, but it talks about how to create higher performing, happier classrooms in 7 moves. It's trying to help simplify it for them. And our students, when they leave here, go into an environment, if they go into higher education, where they'll be doing online learning. And I want to have our kids prepared for that kind of environment. So I'd like to encourage more of this blended learning, more of this, like we just did the Skype and the Google Hangout type of thing. So the kids are getting more of a feel of what's going on in the world. So, so we have that going on, and I wanted to thank everyone, but before I thank everyone, I just wanted to mention that I left you some booklets. They're free from the federal government, and we've used this NetCenter one in the past. Some of you that have been here have seen it. This is a guide for parents on chatting with kids about being online. This is a new one that we haven't used. It's Heads Up, Stop, Think, and Connect, for social media and helping kids to stand up to bullying and that kind of thing. So I gave you copies of some of it. The other things I left you are identity theft and data breaches. this would be something that we would put in the teachers' rooms just for teachers to have as something as a resource for them. So I just gave you copies of what we hand out to our staff or students. And again, I really want to thank the entire community for the support we've been given in terms of technology, because what we're doing is incredible. What we're doing with it, I like talking about what we're doing with it more than the fact that I'm just handing out devices. I think what you've seen is what's important in terms of educational opportunities for the kids to do these safaris or the mystery states. Okay. Any questions?
Thank you, Ellen. If I could ask a couple of questions.
Sure.
I know last year
Yeah.
we had an issue primarily because the purchase time we bought on the new devices came later.
Right.
And the vast amount of new devices.
Right.
I know we sort of changed the purchase time. We were able to
Right.
purchase up front. So I'm just making sure that first week of school, all devices, especially for the high school.
Everything's done.
Good, okay.
There-
Fantastic.
I'm very excited to say that to you.
From my conversations with the superintendent, one thing I should mention that I want to thank you for doing was, it's my understanding that, especially early on, you're going to house your tech people in each of the schools.
Yes, yep.
So that if kids have issues, they'll be sitting at lunch with the kids, and people can walk up to them and.
That's right.
And ask for help to
Right.
fix problems.
The technicians are already aware of that, and so, yeah.
Great. The other question I had was in the, maybe it's a piece that you don't know, but when I asked a question about, for example, the safari is the culmination of that piece. Is there opportunities, I assume it's done in classrooms at different times.
Right.
Okay.
You have to schedule it in advance, yeah.
So, for example, if my child missed school the day of the safari, is there the opportunity for them to go to another classroom to make sure that they?
If the teacher agrees, because we're doing it in another class, we can't do we only do one classroom at a time.
Right.
So we've been putting on, obviously, numbers of them, so if a teacher allows them to go to another classroom when we're doing it, there would be the opportunity.
I would just like
Yeah.
to see, whether the teacher, I don't mean if the teacher doesn't agree, as long
Right.
as it's not a discipline issue.
Right.
I would love to see that, that there be sort of a broader statement made to teachers if a kid misses class that day, because if you think about it, this is what you're, right, it's a field trip that you're pushing towards, and we're spending education time in order to get you there, and this is the piece that you want to see.
Yeah.
I would hate for a kid to miss out because they were sick or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, because it is so.
As Mo had mentioned earlier, with regard to sort of going to different classes at different time and maybe not seeing the whole first grade or not seeing the whole second, I think our goal is to educate our professional teachers so they can do this in their own classrooms and not book a special time with a special person to come in the classroom. They can do this on a regular basis. We're adding more units to the elementary. We're infusing it with more technology so that we can do this perhaps on a larger scale. I mean, this is something I hope she's just educating these people, setting the example for these teachers, and so that it's universal. So.
Mr. Chair, kind of related to that, my thought was, because in preparation for this meeting, I was reviewing your technology plan, which it looks like you guys will probably be embarking on some work to submit the next technology plan.
We're incorporating the technology into the strategic plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
I didn't know.
Yeah,
will you
we're not
still-
required to do that anymore, the tech plan by the state.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that was based on the requirement. Because there
Yeah.
were some really neat, you kind of had a nice outline, kind of like the buildings have their SMART goals. They identify the different areas. And I thought it was nice to kind of go back and look through that. And as I read through it, I know there's certain things that you've done in there because I've heard about them throughout the past 3 years, that
Right.
technology plan has been kind of operationalized, which is great.
Right.
I don't know if the whole community does. This provides a nice kind of snapshot. It might be nice to reflect on that at some point at one of the meetings, because where that plan's closing down, as I kind of walked through it, there were a lot of really nice things done there.
Right.
And that is posted, that's what's posted on our website right now. It might be nice for the community to kind of see, these were our 6 focus areas, these were our goals, and this is what we hit. And then there's some things in there, I'm not sure if we are still working on them, and I'm curious. So when I'm thinking of this example right now, and Louise is doing some great work getting in these classrooms and really trying to empower teachers to kind of embed these types of technologies in the curriculum. And there were some components in that technology plan that spoke to we're going to, and, you know, our goal is 90% of our teachers to
Yeah.
be operationalizing technology in the
Yeah.
classroom, and we're going to kind of assess that. So my thought is, as we kind of reflect on this stuff, how are we assessing, now that Louise has gone out to all of these teachers and rolled this curriculum in some classrooms in the
Yeah.
first grade, are we going back to assess, kind of poll the teachers, how comfortable are you now with
Yeah.
running something like this yourself?
Yeah, we
Did we
could-
get you here, and then how can we help you empower your fellow cohort of teachers to kind of get there too, so we kind of
We could
rise
definitely
all those-
assess what she's been doing
Yeah.
a survey. The other piece I just want to know, that 90% number was from benchmarks that no longer exist at the state level.
Okay.
So the state has, because we don't have to do them, all of those were old benchmarks from, and I've actually talked to the tech director for the state, because I would like guidelines back, but there aren't any from the state level right now on technology like we did. We had guidelines that were probably from 15 years ago, but at least we had something, we had guidelines that said 90% of teachers should be able to do, you know, this, and how much professional development, how much staff you should have for technology. All of that was included, and you go to the website now, it's not there anymore, it's gone.
Yeah, so that'd be something
Yeah.
probably, I mean, again, I'm
Yeah.
no expert, it's just as
Yeah.
I'm starting to think, you know, I was looking back at your plan in
Yeah.
preparation of this meeting and trying to kind of understand where we came from, which
Yeah.
was, we've done a lot of work in the
We
district.
have,
It's really
yeah.
exciting to kind of reflect on all of that stuff and a lot
Right.
of those goals.
Yeah.
I remember being on the committee when you launched those,
Yeah.
or maybe just when the drafts were going through,
Yeah.
but thinking, oh, wow, some of these capital asks are really big with one-to-one, and are we going to get there? And the fact that we're so far along is wonderful. And then I was kind of looking into some of the newer, I know in that plan it talked about, reference these ISTE standards,
ISTE,
right? And now
yeah.
there's the, I
Yeah.
saw like there's like a Massachusetts
Yeah.
digital literacy thing.
ISTE has always had, they have standards for teachers, staff,
Uh-huh.
for technology coaches. They've had them. Massachusetts actually came out just before ISTE with their new standard, which is, it's very well done. I love Massachusetts standard, and ISTE has some good points to it, but we do have new curriculum guidelines from the state
Right.
that we are using, we did
Okay.
some development of last year. So we were using that already. I went through with the teachers that we're working on, that the computer teachers, we went through the curriculum for the state, but we did go and look at ISTEs just to see what holes we might have. There was very few, but whatever we found, we put in. So there was work on the curriculum area, and the teachers at the elementary level were definitely implementing the state curriculum guidelines.
That would be great. I think in
Yeah.
the future, it'd be great for you to come to us and kind of explain that.
Sure.
Because I think there's so many moving parts related to the technology in curriculum and technology and kind of the capital things.
Sure.
That are just, they're beyond my scope.
Right.
And I'd love to better understand what are the guidelines we're kind of following?
Right.
Is it ISTE? Is it the
It's
Massachusetts
a state always
standard?
takes
Is it-
priority over
right.
national, yeah.
And then where are we at with that? Like, what does that look like? So we better know up here, how do we support your next
Right.
set of
Right.
curriculum goals and things like that. So,
Sure.
I mean, give it some time. Clearly, you'll need some time to probably kind of
Right.
think about that and pull it together.
Yeah, I'm sure Louise would want to get an assessment
Yeah.
from the staff, because she'll be putting together next year's, next fall,
Yeah.
this coming fall. Sorry to hear.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the redesign of the website, do you have a time frame as to what you're thinking?
But we're trying to do it for the, September-ish, but I don't know if that's ambitious. I actually had an email from the company today, and we just sent them the PO, and they said it's in legal right now, and they gave me the name of the project manager who hasn't reached out to me, but she said it's usually 3 to 5 days before that even set up. And working with the company right now, for the Blackboard Connect and for our mobile app, we had to set up a meeting for next week, and his calendar was so full. He's out, I think he's in Utah, so he's 2 hours behind us. But he's going to do it for him, 7 o'clock in the morning, for us it'll be 9, just to accommodate us. So we have to schedule all that stuff, so we don't have a hard, I don't want to say there's a hard date, but we want to be on the fast track and get it done as quick as we can, and I would like to bring it to you and showcase it.
So like January 1st, we'll have it, definitely by January 1st?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We're thinking much,
that's-
much more
that's-
aggressive, but I don't want to
No,
say it.
no, I know, when you have a date, just let us know.
Oh,
'cause
we
it'd be
will.
great, because we can start talking about dates, and we can.
Sure.
Because that's, and then the other reason why I asked that is, because there are teachers that have their own websites, and I'm
Right.
sure that the new Blackboard's gonna have a teacher portal where the teachers can have their website there.
Oh, yeah, usually, well, it's just a link. We use, if they have their own, we just
Okay.
keep the link. Everything's going to move over.
Okay.
That's the intent. So it's, because it's Schoolwires and Blackboard, they've made the templates so that we can move, but we've already done, we can move the content over. It just doesn't look really good the way it
Yeah.
is now. We have to decide what those tabs are going to look like, that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Brian, before you move off this topic, Ellen, currently the app's down.
Yeah, because we have to put the new one up. That's what we're working on, the new one.
Okay, and when will that be?
Well, I was working on it today, so hopefully we'll have that up as soon as possible, but I would hope that'd be up for September.
Well, I would hope that would be
Yeah.
up before school started.
Right,
Because
yeah.
People use it.
a lot of people
Right.
use the app
Right.
for outlining what's happening.
Right,
so.
right. Yeah, so that's what we did today on the phone, so we were
Okay.
working with tech support on that.
How long has that been down for?
Probably, I'm not sure exactly, tell the truth.
Okay.
I have it on my phone, I know it's not working, but I haven't, I didn't.
Yeah, I
really
have it on my
monitor
phone too, and I
Yeah.
always try to go to it
Yeah,
to
I didn't
see
really.
what's up. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I don't know
To that point,
that.
a good question would be, as you migrate to a new website, district website.
Yeah.
Will there be a point in time where there is not a website accessible, or
Oh,
everything's
no.
migrating behind the
Oh, no,
scenes
it's
and you shut
behind
one
the
down?
scene, and then
Okay,
we
that's
have
good to
a
know.
cutover
Yeah.
date, yeah. Yeah. No, and we're not cutting over until we know it's perfect,
Yeah.
or closest. It's never going to be
Okay.
perfect, but it's going to be as
Yeah.
close as we can get to perfect.
I apologize, Brian.
It's okay. No, I'm switching to a different item. With the high school access, and you said you're working and they're rolling out the new portal for access at the high school. Will students that bring their own device, will they have to have a new access piece, or is it all going to stay the same as it was? In other words,
Probably-
will they have to go on day one, go at lunchtime, bring their computer over to whoever's there and say, hey, can you get me on the network? Or is,
I have verified with Mark, but I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
That we have to do that.
if that's the case,
Yeah.
can we have Mr. Brannigan get an email from you or so when he sends out his first blast?
Oh, yeah.
Parents, I read it every time he puts something out there, so
Yeah.
it's kind of cool. And if he says that's
Sure.
anyone who has, I know
Yeah.
it's not a lot.
No, we
But
can
there's
actually
maybe
let
40
people know,
students.
yeah. Yeah, I can do
They'll know
that.
that
Yeah,
when
that's
they
not a
walk in
big
the door,
deal.
it's not going to work on day one.
No
Don't
problem. Yeah, we'll let them
Okay.
be on IT.
That'd be great.
Have
And
access.
from what my numbers, based on what you presented tonight, we've got about 1,400 one-to-one devices, grades 6 through 12 at this
Yeah.
point.
Right.
On top of that, you've
We
got
have
all
the
these other
elementary
devices.
and the teacher devices.
Teachers' devices, you've got the
Right.
devices down at the elementary school.
Right.
And you have 8 people.
I have 8 total, yeah.
8 people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but they're all wonderful.
Oh, they
I
are.
have to tell you, I'm blessed right now.
So each person's responsible for 200 devices.
Yeah, I know, a business model would be 50. And not each person, because, one does data, one does webpage stuff, and, so.
And then I do have to comment on that virtual Safari and the state piece. When you were showing the video for the mystery state, that's the moment when every hand in that classroom went up.
Right.
That's that moment, and I think that when you think of technology, it's fun, but there's learning involved, which I thought was great, and that excitement. When you see the use of the technology and that excitement, that's exactly why it draws you want more. The kids want to learn more because of it, and I just thought that was the moment right there.
Yeah.
No offense to the whole presentation.
Right.
That was the moment when the hands went
Well,
up.
that's how I felt too, watching it, because I went to see them, and I was like, this is what I've been dreaming about for years. We finally got there.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Ellen, the one question that is gonna, I have a question. It was a question that came from students at the end of the year. Can we really look at the idea, we're asking high school students to do more over the summer. They're given a list of work that they have to do, and the kids did bring up that, we have to turn in these computers. We wish we could keep our computers with us for the summer because we have to do work. Can we maybe look at the idea? I know you have to do updates and things have to be updated, but a way in which kids who need them can keep their computers for the summer.
Well, that's part of why I'm excited about that automatic updates, because we couldn't do it this year because the internet certificate was only for 1 year. We put it out so it's multiple years now, way out, so that we had to touch every single device just for that reason alone. Never mind, we purchased that, we didn't purchase, it came with Lightspeed, but we have orchestrated that needed, the agent had to be put on for that. So there was a variety of reasons why we couldn't do it this year. We still would probably have some reasons, I don't know what they are right now, because right now they're all up to date, but we've talked about it amongst ourselves that maybe there's a week, like if you're a sophomore, you bring them in this week and we touch, we haven't got that, we had something we have to work on, but it's something that we are entertaining, but we just need to figure out how it's going to happen. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I just want to say, I think looking back at your technology plan, it's really easy to sit here and be like, where are we, because technology is so fast, and everything's changing so fast, like what's today was not even yesterday.
Right.
So it was really helpful to go back and look at your plan, because I think you really need to stop and take pause with your staff and say, we've really come a long way. You did you accomplished, you and your staff, a real lot in the past 3 years. And it's hard sometimes to see that unless you stop and reflect and look back at the plan. Like I was looking through and go, oh, we've been doing that for 2 years now. I can't believe that was the goal. I forgot that was the goal that
the original plan was to
forth.
BYOD, and we went in a totally different direction because it didn't work.
And I was reading through that, and I think, I mean, I would just kind of, challenge everyone to kind of look at that document again, and then also put it back on you guys to kind of look at that and reflect on it, and maybe start to map out, and maybe it sounds like you already have, what are those next steps? What's the next kind of technology plan? Because it was important to be able to look back at where we've come from.
Right.
So,
thank you. Okay, I appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. It's a pleasure. Oh, thank you so much.
Moving on, Mr. Chair. Please. If we could, we have a school choice update and application information. As you know, we expanded school choice this year. We're trying to bring in more students into the district to fill up our classrooms, not too full, but trying to fill up our classrooms. We know there's a financial benefit to it, and Mrs. Piatelli has a quick report on school choice.
Very good, thank you. So yes, we did open up last year to 20 seats between the 6 to 12, and we filled 19 of those seats, mostly for the entire year, which was great, because some kids came in a little later, so the state does prorate your revenue on that. So we did bring in, for revenue last year, $99,189. This year, we're projecting that 12 students will be returning who were here with us last year. We also have opened up grades 1 to 5 for this upcoming year. We have 3 new middle school students and 1 second grader at Berkland that have already been confirmed and have received authorization from the superintendent. And we have 2 from Mary Good who are in the process of the paperwork. So we should have 18 students in our seats, and there could be more. So we're doing well.
Just so everyone remembers, the vast majority of kids we picked up were high school students who moved and then wanted to continue. Superintendent and I both know at least 2 parents who are in that same boat currently and are in the process of having sold their home, in the process of moving, and will be requesting that their high school students stay. So we expect that number to essentially be the same as last year. And as it goes forward, because that's just the way it works out.
Right, so we'll hit where we were last year, maybe even get a few more, but we did include in our budget a new special ed teacher at the high school to be completely funded out of that for this school year. We had 1 last year that will be funded, and we've been, for the last few years, funded another teacher. So we have 3 full-time employees funded through that revolving account, which is great. The laptops, we actually contracted, we leased them through the high school revolving account for school choice, because most of the devices, all of the devices that we purchased are being distributed to the middle school and the high school, and that's where the students generated the revenue from over the last couple of years. So,
And we anticipate this trend being upward, especially as we begin to move forward with the high school building project, if that is approved. That'll certainly, I think, keep more students who may have gone out of district looking for a better facility, and attract those students maybe who would like to come to Middleborough to a new facility, if that is the choice of the community moving forward, so.
With regards to school choice and the enrollment numbers, I know you keep an eye on it month to month, and I know we need to, because we have a lot of facilities opening up, and people are moving into town right now as we speak. It'll be interesting to see what the numbers of people moving in. A whole slew of apartments, just brand new apartment, beautiful apartments just opened up. People are rolling in.
Yes, and well, the principals are the first line of application, so they know who's in their building and what's available to the choice students, so.
Yeah,
that's great.
and I mean, even beyond the choice students, just our enrollment numbers in
Correct.
general.
Yep.
Because if we run into a situation, we may have to evaluate the elementary level. High school, we should be able to accommodate pretty well. Middle school, maybe not as easy as the high school, but elementary, I don't want to run into a situation where all of a sudden we have 40 new students come into one of our, and most of the apartments are all in one school building.
Yeah, that's one.
So.
And through retirement and attrition, we were able to eliminate a couple of positions down at the elementary level, and in so doing, we were able to, purchase more of the budget and move forward financially. However, if those numbers continue to climb, then we may need to be looking at that also.
Mr. Chair. And we did that recognizing that our classroom size would still be really, really good. So that's something we never, just to be clear, want to blow through. So kind of just wanted to add that piece.
Yeah.
We're mindful of that.
Okay. Any other questions on school choice?
Put in our packet the application for us to take a look at.
Yes, for you to look at and review the letter. And
Yes.
With respect to that letter, that was great. I'm glad to see like a formal application and the letter, which is great. The only question I had is on the letter in the first paragraph, last sentence, beginning enrollment may be requested at any school. I think we said, I think we excluded the MEC from school
did.
choice. So if that could just be made more clear, that would be probably good.
excellent point. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Any other questions?
In the morning.
Thank you, Ms. Lynn.
Looks great.
That piece.
Thank you very much. We covered number 4 and move on to number 5 here, proposed faculty handbook. Dr. Gates is here, and she has been working on this as a special project. As you know, there's room in her contract for me to ask for Dr. Gates to do some special projects, and I like to ask her to do things because I know they're going to be done well, and I know they're going to be comprehensive and vetted, and so she's going to describe to you briefly, I guess, the process by which she has established a faculty handbook, which I think is very important to have. It's a guideline for all faculty. It's something they need to refer to throughout the year, if need be. Generally, a guideline that we have not had in place in the past. So, Dr. Gates, welcome, and thank you. And
thank you, Superintendent Lynch. Thank you, school committee members, for this opportunity to present this draft of an employee handbook. This was something that came about through my work with our new teachers in running our new teacher summer orientation program. I've always tried to equip our new teachers with the information they need in order to uphold our policies and procedures in the district. So this is an effort to more formalize it and more fully embrace the numerous school committee policies that we have, and just bring transparency to that for all. And I sent this document to you. I probably apologize for the resolution here, but I sent this document to you through Ms. Gagnon for the Dropbox. There has been 2 updates since that made it to your Dropbox. There was a sentence changed in regards to staff signing in and out, as well as, yes.
I hate
Yes.
to interrupt you. I'm technology stupid. I could not get this to open in my Dropbox, so I'm just wondering if anyone else could open this. I don't think it's openable, is that a word, openable, on the iPad.
Okay.
So is there any way you could forward this to us? Like, I know you've sent emails in the past to access the Google site. That would be great. So I apologize for not being super prepared. because I haven't gone through this, but I thought it was just a me issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I did see it through the superintendent.
That's great, thank you so much.
So mine was easy.
So the DocX documents, are they just not viewable on an iPad, on an Apple technology? Like, is there?
It
is just too big?
It's 77 pages with many links to school committee policies and such.
So it's our fault?
No, it's absolutely not. It is just a rather large document, so probably opening it on an iPad was not all that easy, but what our hope is that this document brings some transparency and clarity to processes across the district, and gives everyone a common basis for how we function together and what our expectations are. My hope is that with your endorsement this evening or recommendations for improvements to the document, that I would be able to use it with our new teachers to make sure that we're bringing them on board in the best manner possible, and just making sure that they know what is expected of them, as we do have high expectations of all staff and everyone in our district. But this document was a collaboration of many folks. Obviously, Superintendent Lynch. I also relied heavily upon Mrs. Andrade at MKG, as well as Mrs. Lyons, our Pupil Personnel Services Director, for input and feedback, as well as the rest of our administrative team, and also Mr. Catino to make sure that we are not overstepping our bounds with our collective bargaining agreement with our association, as we like to work hand in hand with one another. So there's been a combined effort of many folks. Obviously, I think you guys know I love Google. I love Google applications, and I took advantage of this to make it so this document was more easily navigable. You can do this in Word as well, but some of the features of being able to integrate some other documents through Google make this a plus. So all of these different headers are clickable, which means that you can navigate to the various sections of the web page. Anywhere in the footer where it has table of contents, you can click back and go there. Much of the language that is within this document was pulled directly from the school committee policies, an abridged version of it usually the first paragraph or so that contains the most salient points. But with all of the policies that are referenced, each one has a link that will bring you directly to that policy so that you can get further details on it. So I think that's a nice piece for administrators and teachers alike. But if you didn't have a chance to read it, I apologize, and I can certainly receive your feedback at another time if that's more appropriate.
No, that's the onus is on us. Nobody reached out and told you that we couldn't actually open it prior to this meeting, so
No.
don't hold that on you, for sure. I'd like some time to go through it, but I recognize you need to have this approved so that you can get this in the hands for your new...
Just to be clear, this really falls under employee. The superintendent runs the employees. He can create it, but we can vote to support the creation.
Wonderful.
Does that make sense
Yep.
to everybody? Because we wouldn't create this document. This is truly the superintendent, and I know Dr. Gates has been involved. Dr. Gates, I was able to take a look at it. The superintendent and I sat down and went over it, and I want to thank you. It's very comprehensive. I personally think it's helpful. I would be helped by it if I were a new person. And as you've talked in the past, especially when new people come in, new people don't know who to contact or what to do at times, and you sort of hear it from somebody, and if they told you correctly, it might be correct, or if they told you incorrectly, then you're under an assumption that I heard from so-and-so. And so it's good to have something that people can reference and look at. And also, in the Google app, it can be updated. So when, as we've talked about in the past, we have to change policies change, we have to add things along. And I think it just makes it easier just for people to be a part of it. And I really thank you and appreciate your work in this, because it makes it much, much easier, in my opinion.
Thank you. And I hope it makes work easier for others, because some of the pieces that are in here, being clear about the paperwork that's expected for course approvals and lane changes, and just bringing, consistency to that, so that we're all making things more efficient for our staff at the central office as well. I think there's a lot more potential in this document, and hopefully we can continue to expand upon it in the future, but I think it's a good first start. And if there's additional feedback that, as you do have the chance to peruse the document, I would welcome that wholeheartedly.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, through you. It looks like a very comprehensive document, having now been able to just open it up and see it. And my commitment back to you is to go through it for certain and provide any feedback. My only question is, so where's this going to be housed for employees to access?
New staff in next week's Staff Strong program, which is our newly named summer orientation program, will receive a hard copy of this. Some of the principals have inquired about being able to provide hard copies for all of their staff. I know that at the elementary, Mrs. Andred and Mr. Thompson have habitually produced what they called a survival guide, which contained a lot of these policies that we need to make sure all staff are aware of. So they've inquired about that. But in terms of where it will be housed electronically, since it is an employee handbook, I would envision it being under our district staff-only link, available to all staff through there.
Yeah, because your live links, it looks like they're numerous, and I think that's a very valuable component, so that it's accessible readily that way. That's great.
I also, I understand the staff-only piece, but I would really recommend it goes somewhere where if somebody's applying to the school, they could access it, take a look at it. If people are interested in employment here, they could at least see we have one and review it and go over it to see what opportunities there are. I think that would be great.
Yeah, good idea.
Thank you.
Good suggestion, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair? Yes. Thank you for doing this. You answered my one big question, which was to make sure that Mr. Catino and his group didn't have any major issues with it, because I thought that it was a document that we're a $40 million business here. Got to have a handbook. I understand we had all these policies, but they were, like you said, a document this big that mixed and mingled everything, and you picked out all the stuff that people need to know, and that's key. I think it's going to be helpful, so when people have a question, they'll be able to find it. I thought, when I looked at it outside of my iPad, then I went into my iPad, I was like, I can't find it. But I had gone through it because you had pictures. And I like when you have pictures of people, because you don't know who people are if you don't see them. And I thought that was really a good piece, even the other principals from other schools. So I think that was a key piece when you have key personnel in there, and now you know them immediately, even if you've never met them. So I thought that was great. And then the pieces that you put in there, I think they're great, and I would love to move that we support this document as a school committee.
Again, Dr. Gates, I want to point out, time and time again, you have picked up a little extra here and there, things that aren't necessarily, even though the sentence says anything else the superintendent gives you, and wowed this committee. So I really want to thank you for that, because that has been fantastic. As is
Many
this.
hands make light work. If you're not willing to pitch in and get it done, then,
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none,
Thank
all
you
those
so
in favor of supporting the superintendent, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Gates. And thank you, Mr. Catino, for that document through.
Thank you,
Dr.
Frank.
Gates also. Next item is a clarification of the preschool tuition rate, which was voted on back in March. There was a comment in the minutes that said that, and I quote, Chairman Young stated that currently the fee is $28 a week, will increase to $34 next year and $40 the year after. For clarification, we did vote on the proposal that Carolyn Lyons had put forward, which did include an increase from to $7 a day, which in a 5-day program would be a $35 a week program. And there are some students in the 5-day program. So Carolyn Lyons, being the PPS director and being the Juris Doctorate that she is, wanted to clarify and make sure that the committee understood that even though Chairman Young's comment is correct for a 4-day week, there are occasions when there are 5-day weeks, and the program would be $35 a day, and moving on from there. So it's just a clarification piece for the committee, that it was in the minutes. There was a comment by Chairman Young that was not, go ahead.
I believe that when we set that, it was set based on the hourly rate.
It was.
So if they were only on a 3-day, 4-day, 5-day, whatever it ended up being, that was how it was going to be.
Right, but in
Oh, okay.
Carolyn Lyon's review, she just wanted to make sure that the committee understood
Yep.
that when you voted on it, you voted on a daily rate, and the daily rate does go up a little bit with a 5-day program, 4-day program, and goes down with a 3-day program and a 2-day program, so.
if no one objects, Chair will take a motion that to
Reaffirm?
make sure that it was a daily rate that we quoted.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion.
And just for clarification, the email that she sent along takes note that the daily rate increases from $7 per day to $8.50 per day this fiscal year and $10 per day next fiscal year.
Right. Correct. Any comments or questions? This is a very nice way to make sure I didn't mess up. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. I think Carol will be okay.
Thank you, and that concludes the superintendent's report this evening, Mr. Young.
Thank you very much. I wanted to go over the MSBA update and discussion. Brian did mention earlier that the school building committee will be meeting September 6th, excuse me. The building committee is going to meet at 5 o'clock. That will finalize the plans for the high school moving forward to the MSBA and getting to an agreement with monetary pieces. I will remind the committee that that night we have a joint meeting with the selectmen. I've spoken briefly to the chairman of the Board of Selectmen. I believe we're going to meet in the selectmen's room. But I'll send out notification to everybody as we go. We're going to meet at 7. There's going to be a presentation to both boards on the plan, and we're going to ask both boards to support the plan moving forward for MSBA purposes. You will have a much better idea of the cost of that plan, exactly what it's going to roll out to be. When MSBA approves, we'll have a much better idea of how much they're going to contribute. Related to that, I wanted everyone to know that as of Wednesday, the superintendent was informed that our reimbursement rate increased from 56% to
56.26 to 57.78, an increase of 1.48, so 1.5 points.
So in the reimbursement rate, in just, that could be $1.5 million, so everyone understands. It's a positive thing for this program. It's a negative thing in the sense that it means we have more children at free or reduced lunch levels and in somewhat poverty in this community. So I think that we should, take that and clearly the programs that we run, like the Family Resource People, are helping, but there's still more to be done. And so I don't want to necessarily throw that off as just a positive to us. While it helps us in one program, it does hurt us because we have kids in trouble, and we want to make sure that they're reached out to.
And that is a base reimbursement number. There will also be numbers added on top of that as a result of programs and policies that we put in place with the building of a new high school. For example, how green the building is in terms of conserving energy, and what level of what's called LEED silver that we reach. And there'll be other opportunities for our numbers to go up in that respect. So hopefully, and that is the basic building of the building, and does not take into account a lot of the extras that we've added in the program. With a perfect example is going from an auditorium of 430 seats to 750 seats.
So there's pieces that aren't reimbursable. For example, the tear down of the old high school if the new high school is built.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Can I just ask a question about some of this, the potential for that rate to increase? Will we know the answers to that and how much that increases by the time we get to town meeting for the vote, or will those kind of come after?
Yeah, no, the
We'll
actual.
know everything.
What it's
Okay.
going to cost will be known by town meeting vote.
The number, okay.
And what reimbursement rate we're going to
Maybe
get.
final.
For example, we're going to have the building committee by our next meeting will decide sort of how the program's run going forward, and that we're one of the few groups allowed a percentage point if we go with a certain way. But as it sounds nice to have an extra percentage point, there's still additional cost with doing it that way. So we have to, one of the things that we asked is to look at the cost of the building without running it that way, and the cost of building with running it that way, so we can see what that point lined up. There'll be a point, for example, probably the most, that most schools are getting now is a point on the green initiative, primarily because they put irrigation in their fields. And so irrigation detracts a little bit from the green because you have to have watering systems and stuff like that, but other pieces add to it, so it's a mix. So you generally run about a point there that you can get, and we're working towards getting as many points as we possibly can. But sometimes points don't make sense because of the cost. The cost outweighs the point system.
Smart points.
What?
Smart points.
Smart points, exactly. And points that make sense for the community in general. So everything is moving along. I would remind people that October 2nd is the town meeting, and November 4th will be the election. I believe the selectmen have set both dates because the superintendent and I were there along with Brian when they set those dates. So we're moving rapidly towards that. I would tell people and remind people again that this is a process that right now is just about hit 2.5 years. From the point that we started this until the point that we are now. So this is not something that should come as a surprise to people. I think we've been upfront from the very beginning. I will tell people they can go to the website and see everything that every member of the building committee has seen and looked at and reviewed. And all the plans are there, all everything, every piece of paper that we've gotten has been put on that website for the community to look at. So we also had a booth at Crazy Days that went very well. The superintendent spent quite a bit of time there, so I would say thank you to him, especially spending Saturday.
2 crazy days.
2 crazy days.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
If anyone's watching that they're wondering why there's 2 separate votes, the town meeting vote is the vote to bond, to actually go out and get a loan to pay for things, whereas the election, when you go to the ballot box, is to actually authorize the debt exclusion of the project. So it's 2 separate piece process. That's the reason why there's 2 votes. I've had more people ask me, they don't understand that, and then after they go, oh yeah, that's why we always vote those bonding things at town meeting. I said, that's why we do those. That's how we have to do that, so.
Right, do you have anything you wanted to add about building?
No, I think that pretty much sums it up. I think Brian's point is well made with regard to why the 2 separate votes. And the first vote is a town meeting, and would require 150 minimum participation citizens from the town, voting citizens. And November 4th is a simple majority, as I understand it.
Yes, bonding requires, Mr. Chair, bonding requires a 2/3 vote of town meeting, and a simple majority for a debt exclusion at the election is all that required if people want it to pass.
Any questions about that? Do you want to talk about the MEC?
The MEC, we have MDM Engineering, which is the contractor for that job, is currently preparing a quote or a quote for how much it would cost to finish off the top of that project. So that's what we're waiting on. Our last communication was a couple days ago from the project manager, who said that it's in the gentleman's hand who owns the company, who was back from his trip to Poland, and he is putting that together, between he and his son.
And I should point out too, that in both cases, both the high school project and the MEC project is still well under budget for both projects.
Absolutely.
Because I think that's important for people to understand in here. Okay? Any other questions about that before we move on? I will turn over to the MASC Summer Conference Report. Greg, if you want to start, you're more than welcome to.
So, we spent 2 days in glorious Marlborough, living the dream. So we had 3 sessions. I attended the goal-setting session on Friday night, and then Saturday morning was equity in education and the role of the chair in the second session. I gotta say the role of the chair session was really good. I went and just to see how things were going, and we got a bunch of ideas about how we could make meetings run more efficiently. I see Mr. Young has already put one in on the consent agenda. But there's more we could do, I guess we're going to work on that, right? In a future workshop.
Consent agenda, and I'll explain that when we get to it next, it is relatively easy and I think just makes sense, and I don't think it requires a lot of thought. There are a couple other pieces that we talked about and impressed us that makes more sense to talk about as a committee together about how we want to do it and to set it up. And that's why we still have the workshop idea about going over our core values and our code of conduct, if you will. And so it made sense when we do that piece that I'll bring up these extra pieces to see if they interest people.
Yeah.
But I think for the most part, I know we both found it very interesting, and we spent a lot of time.
Yeah, the equity and education part was really good. I'm not sure, I'm going to start to work on, there's a lot of data that I'm not sure we're collecting now that we might want to start collecting to make sure that we're treating all students equitably. And so there's a lot of training on that. There's a lot of, there's going to be a lot of hard work to get that done. But overall, I found it really enlightening to go to those sessions. So I appreciate the opportunity to go.
It was fun. We went to a lot of the same pieces, mainly because I don't necessarily think the other workshop really applied to us.
Yep.
But I would point out that they call that workshop the role of the chair, but it's truly about how to develop your meeting and how, so it's I can't emphasize enough. I know they run the same workshop at the regular convention in November. It is something I would recommend anybody attend, because I think, part of the process is everybody sitting around talking about their meetings and things that happen, and we've seen happen here, and how to deal with it, and you get a new insight or get a different opinion, and it makes sense. And so, some of the things made sense. Some of the things we looked at and we were like, that's not going to work here. There's still a point out there that I know Brian and Mo have seen in the past, which is there's still a point where some people will be hardcore about public comments, the only point in which the outside public can speak. And, we've opened up our agenda to people can talk about everything we vote on and everything and the issue and ask us questions. And I think for the first time that I went to a conference like this, there was a lot more of that than the, public comment being the only time somebody can speak and we're going to be rigid and hard. And it was the first time I really saw, MASC always pushed that. Mm-hmm. It was the first time I really saw a different breakdown for them, which is they understood why opening it up made sense, and it was just making sure that it didn't overwhelm a meeting and take control of a meeting, and people were losing time frames and stuff like that. The funniest one was for us was they gave us sample agendas, and Acton Boxborough had a sample agenda that was 3 or 4 pages long, and they meet weekly. Okay, and so it was funny. And then, some people, we had a lot of great conversations. For example, some people put time frames down. We're going to discuss this at 8:15, and list how long we're going to discuss things. Both Greg and I saw the same problem, which is there was a note underneath that said the committee would get to an agenda item anytime it wanted. But if you had put down that you were going to talk about an agenda item at 8:15, mm-hmm. Yes, you as a committee could take it at 7:30 because you ran through the other things. But that's really unfair to people who saw 8:15 and said, I'm going to swing by at 8:15 to have a point. I think, sure.
Question the legality of taking it early, because when you put a hard time on an agenda, taking something out of it is a difficult thing, because someone could come in and say, hey, you took something out of order, you said it was going to be at a specific time, I got my babysitter, and then from a transparency standpoint, you're trying to hide something on me?
That's the conversation, but amazingly,
it's legal.
If you put a note at the bottom of your agenda that says you can take anything out of order or change the time based on flat, it covers it.
I remember when we went through some training that there was a real, we wanted to open up public comment, and it was really a arm twist for the person who was helping us, facilitating. She really kind of said, this is your meeting. This belongs to you guys to do your work. And we're like, yeah, but it's our meeting. It's the community's meeting.
As the MASC comment goes, it's a meeting of it's a public meeting of a body. It is not a body meeting. It's not a public.
Yeah, it's a meeting in public, not a public meeting.
Right. So it was interesting.
And I thought,
But like I said, that's changed, and that same person who met with us, I think kind of has a different viewpoint. I will say this, though, and Greg can attest, because Greg also went to the new member committee. I think one of the things that you walk away from is a real sense of how lucky we have it. I feel really lucky with the members that I have on this board and the superintendent and business manager that I have, because, you sit there with people, and I'll tell you a very funny story. I had a woman who's a chair who sat next to me and said, wanted the questions about budget, and said, hey, how do you do budget? And I explained how we do budget mode, which is we meet with the superintendent, he gives us everyone's requests, then we meet with each person individually, and we go over with them, and you and I often ask people to prioritize what you want first, what you want second, and then we ask what you would cut, which is always a hard question. And she said, my superintendent just gives me a sheet and says, approve it. And we were like, no, you can go back to your superintendent and say you don't want to do that.
Oh, 2009?
They were like, what? We can go. I'm like, yeah, that's your role. It's okay. And so it's very interesting to hear some of the stories that you hear.
I was surprised to hear some stories too, that not being on any other school committee, I don't have any reference point. But I do say that based on my research, I think we do, it's a good working committee, and with the superintendent, I feel we have a good relationship where some schools, districts don't have that. And I heard one story, one member asked their chair to put something on next week's agenda, and the chair said no. So it's like, how can you work like that? But
I couldn't agree more, Mr. Chair.
I think it's honestly a reflection of the culture of the town. It's a very collaborative, open, transparent culture here that it took probably many years to build with the leaders that we have in place. So just reflecting on that, we're all very appreciative.
I think, Mr. Chair, we also have, as a group, annually, when it's a double-page document, single page, two sides, of how we approach things as a group, and that's one of the things that came out of our training that I thought was one of the most awesome pieces, is that we don't always all agree, but we agree to move on, we move forward, and everything that we do for the good of the district. And if we all do that, and we keep doing that, and we keep that in mind, then no matter what happens, we can say we did what was right, or what we believed was right, and then that's how we all get along. Because I've had people say, you guys all agree on everything. I said, not everything, but a lot of stuff is a slam dunk. Approving an out-of-state field trip is a slam dunk. It's not kind of a consent thing.
Well, and the other thing, too, that I would point out to people is that, for a lot of us, we generally get packets and information on Friday. Some things dribble over the weekend, some things come Monday or Tuesday, depending on when. We really encourage members to ask questions of the person. And so we don't share those questions with each other. Those questions generally go to the person who's presenting, or the superintendent and the person who's presenting. So there's no dialogue amongst us. But then what happens is, because we've asked these questions, and a lot of occasions, those are addressed in the presentation. So when somebody comes back, they point out. And so when you see us asking questions, a lot of times things will pop up in the moment, and we ask those questions. But a lot of things we've asked beforehand and gotten answers to in that full presentation, not necessarily a set of answers to us as individual members, but the presentation incorporates the questions that we've asked. So, and I think that's great, and I think it's incumbent upon us too to sort of push each other to make sure we ask those questions to make it easier, because it's unfair to people to ask sort of gotcha questions. They should have the questions so they can be prepared, especially when we get it almost a week in advance. So if no one objects, I'm going to explain the consent agenda. which is one of the pieces. The consent agenda are things that we generally approve all the time. Warrants, out-of-state field trips that aren't many days in length, donation items, those type of things. I did move donation items up primarily because at times we put them in the back, and that's not really what we should do. Every member has a right to pull anything out of the consent agenda. So for example, if we were doing minutes, you could ask to take the minutes out because you saw there needed to be a change or anything like that, that's fine. But rather than vote each individual item separately, we can vote one vote for the consent agenda. And so the motion would be that, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda. And that's it. Thank you very much. I have a second. And so what that allows, and just for discussion, is the approval of warrants, the out-of-state field trip for the senior prom, and the donation from Day State would just be accepted by us. And there obviously can be discussion, but it's not 3 individual votes. And as some of us have seen, sometimes we have 6 or 7 individual minutes and things like that. Now, I would not, for example, while I would put regular session minutes in the consent items, I wouldn't necessarily put executive session unless we were approving them and sending them out to the community. If we were keeping them for a reason, I would put them under action items. Okay? Any questions about that? Does that make sense to everybody? So that to move a little quickly. Then without objection, I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous.
Chair, I'm going to miss saying the warrants. I've been saying them now for 6.5 years. I used to actually read dollar amounts. I'm going to miss it.
No, I understand. And for some people, change is hard. But it was just one of those things that stuck out to us. And first of all, my first question to them was, we can do this? This is legal? And they're like, yeah, no problem. So it was fun. The only other thing I have under action item tonight is the school committee calendar, which I sent today. And I apologize because I didn't realize it didn't drop in the box. Just so everyone knows, the schedule for this fiscal year that I put out, the only changes that I needed to make was, one, I added the meeting on the 6th, which is the joint meeting with the selectmen. And if you look at February the 1st and the 8th, primarily because the superintendent's going to a conference on the 14th or 15th. And so the week after is vacation, so it stayed away from that. None of this touches vacation. This all works for Paul as far as graduation week.
Right.
So this is one of those rare times when we really didn't need to make a change, except for April 2, because the 26th of April avoided vacation week.
Motion to approve the 2017-2018 school committee meeting calendar as presented.
Second?
Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. I do want to point out, I do have 2 pieces of course I didn't put correspondence on, but I do have 2 pieces of correspondence that I want to make people aware of. Mr. Breen sent me an email that said, "Dear Mr. Young, I hope you and your family are well, enjoying the summer days. Attached to this email, please find an invitation to Sachem Salute Our Heroes on September 8th, which is the football game. They usually do the game during the week of 9/11. They honor first responders in Middleborough. Can you please let the committee members know of this invite and ask them to attend?" And so I wanted you to know about that. And then the other thing, which I thought was fantastic and I wanted the community to know about, as soon as I find it.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Did he attach an invitation with the date and the time?
He did, and I
Can
will
you
send
forward
that to
That's
everybody.
great. Thank you.
No problem. And, hold on one second. Oh, that's why I'm doing. I'm not in my inbox. And last but not least, I received an invitation that I do want the committee to know about. I received an invitation from Dr. Charles Wall, who's the head of Massasoit Community College, and I was asked to please join Dr. Charles Wall as he presents Wayne Perkins with a presidential medallion in honor of his dedicated service to Massasoit Community College, Thursday, August 24th at 9 a.m. Wayne was a member of the Massasoit Community College Board of Trustees from 1997 to 2006, serving as its chairman from 2000 to 2001 and 2005 to 2006. Since leaving the Board of Trustees, Mr. Perkins has served on the boards of the College Foundation and was integral in the establishment of the Middleborough Center. And so I do want to recognize Wayne, and Wayne brought Massasoit to us, which has been a huge benefit to both our kids, the high school, and the community. And we wish to thank Massasoit for honoring Wayne, because Wayne goes above and beyond all the time in our community, and we do want to say that.
Mr. Chair, I'll join you at that ceremony if you'd like, and
Thank you.
obviously invite any other member.
And with that, I know before the motion to adjourn, it says next school committee meeting is September 7th, which is our full meeting, but September 6th, we'll have a joint meeting with the selectmen. So Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn. Second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? It's unanimous.